I couldn't feel my arms, couldn't move my legs. My head throbbed, warm blood slowly crawling past my jawline, soaking into the collar of my sweater. The hardwood beneath me was cold, sharp in places, but my body refused to respond. I couldn't lift a hand, couldn't open my eyes, but I could still hear footsteps. Kendra's voice was the first thing I registered, flat, unbothered. "She's not getting back up," she said, like she was commenting on the weather. My son's voice followed, distant but unmistakable. "Just say she tripped. No one will question it." He wasn't panicking. He wasn't rushing down the stairs to help me. He was calm, so calm it made my stomach twist, if I could feel it. Silence. Then the click of her glass hitting the banister. "How long should we wait?" she asked. "At least 40 minutes, maybe an hour," Bryce muttered. "If we call too soon, they'll look into it." A pause, then laughter. The kind of low chuckle you give when something goes just the way you wanted. "She's always been so clumsy anyway," Kendra added. "This won't surprise anyone." I wanted to scream. I wanted to lift my hand, grab the leg of the table, something. But my body was locked in place. All I could do was listen. Bryce's phone buzzed. I could tell by the vibration on the floorboards above. "She signed everything last month, remember?" he said. "Power of attorney, the cabin, it's all covered." "Then we're good," Kendra said, her heels clicking toward the kitchen. "Want a refill?" That was the last thing I heard before darkness swallowed the edges of the hallway. My mind tried to hold on, to memorize every word, but it was slipping. Everything was slipping. Somewhere in the distance, a siren began to wail. It took them 53 minutes to call. The first thing I noticed was the beeping. Slow, steady, insistent. Then the weight in my limbs, heavier than I remembered. My eyelids fought against me as I peeled them open. The ceiling above, blurred and sterile. Somewhere near my shoulder, a soft voice broke through. "You're awake." I turned my head just barely. A nurse stood beside me, clipboard in hand, concern etched across her face. "It's been 2 weeks," she said gently. "We didn't know if you'd come back. No visitors, but you're safe now." Safe. That word echoed strangely in my mind. She checked a monitor, then glanced at my chart. "Your file says you had a fall down the stairs." My mouth was dry, my throat aching, but I didn't speak. I just nodded slowly, letting her believe it, letting her move on. But I knew it wasn't a fall. It was a shove, and they didn't rush to help. I remembered the pause, the long, deliberate silence before the call for help was finally made. I remembered Kendra's voice, cool as ever, Bryce's indifference. The weight of their words pressed heavier on me than the cast on my leg. I blinked at the ceiling again, pretending to drift, pretending I couldn't remember. But my mind was alert, racing behind the mask. They said I slipped, that I was clumsy, forgetful, getting older. They were already rewriting the story, already painting me as a burden who brought it on herself. I stayed quiet, not because I was afraid, but because I was listening. Let them think I'm weak. Let them think they got away with it. When the nurse stepped out, I looked toward the small window in the room. Sunlight streamed in, pale and distant, and that's when I knew I'd need help. Someone who still saw me as more than a signature, someone who hadn't already moved on. They never came. Day after day passed, and neither Bryce nor Kendra showed their faces. Not a message, not a call, not even flowers from the discount rack at the grocery store. The nurse stopped offering to check for visitors after the 5th time. I waited anyway, not because I wanted to see them, but because I needed to know what their silence meant. On the 6th day of being awake, I asked for my bag. The nurse brought it to me. My phone was missing and my wallet felt thinner. I pulled out my debit card and tried to pay for an extra nightgown from the hospital cart. Declined. I thought maybe it was the chip. I tried again. Declined. I asked the nurse if she could help me check my balance. She offered to call the bank for me. After 3 transfers and 15 minutes on hold, a calm voice on the other end said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Your account has been frozen by court order. You'll need to contact your legal guardian for access." My throat went dry. "Excuse me?" "According to our records, power of attorney has been assigned to your son, Bryce Vance, dated 2 weeks ago." The line buzzed in my ear. I didn't speak, couldn't. I asked the nurse if she could pull my home address from the chart. She glanced through it, then blinked. "It says you no longer reside at that property. Ownership has been transferred." Transferred. The house I lived in for 38 years. The one where I raised Bryce. Where my husband died. Gone. All of it gone. while I lay unconscious, struggling to breathe on a ventilator. I pressed the call button with more force than I meant to. When the nurse returned, I didn't hesitate. "Can you call someone for me?" I said. "Her name's Ramona Griggs. She's the only one who will pick up." Ramona pushed through the hospital door like she'd been holding her breath for days. She had a coffee in one hand and a folder clutched tightly in the other. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, she didn't speak, just walked over and set the coffee down with a force that made it slosh. "They told me you weren't allowed visitors," she said. "Said you were unconscious, said it was court-ordered." I blinked slowly, trying to steady the lump in my throat. Ramona leaned closer. "I've been coming every day. Every day, Karen, they kept turning me away." She reached into the folder and pulled out a stack of documents, spreading them on the bed like evidence at a trial. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but fury. "Tell me you didn't sign this," she said. The top sheet was a power of attorney form. My name was on it. So was my signature, only I never signed it. The date was from 12 days ago. I was still in a coma. There were more pages. Bank authorizations, medical directives, property transfers, all with my name scribbled at the bottom, shaky but passable. "They filed to have you declared legally incapacitated," Ramona said. "Filed while you were still unconscious, claimed you were unlikely to recover." I couldn't speak. My mouth stayed open, but no words came. "They told the court you had early-onset dementia, cited a fake neurologist's note." Ramona's voice was tight. "It went through fast because Bryce claimed there was no one else, no spouse, no other family, no close friends." I stared at the ceiling, jaw clenched. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was official, legal, inked. My son had erased me with a signature that wasn't mine. "They've taken everything, Karen," Ramona said, "but they made one mistake." I turned to look at her. "They didn't know you'd wake up." Ramona brought more than coffee the next day. She brought a printout from the county property records. "The cabin's gone," she said, no preamble. "Sold last week, cash deal, transferred to some LLC in Wyoming." I stared at the paper, the picture of the lakefront property barely visible in the top corner. My name had once been on that deed. My husband and I bought it after Bryce was born, back when weekends meant fishing and pancake breakfasts. Gone. "Your husband's coin collection," Ramona continued. "Pawned, the whole set, some rare stuff. I called the guy who appraised it 5 years ago. He said it was worth at least 50 grand. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because there wasn't anything left to drain from me. The physical therapist came in that afternoon. She was kind but clinical, like she was trying not to ask too many questions. I held the railing and took my first step. My knee buckled, and I almost fell. Ramona caught me by the elbow. "You're not doing this alone," she said. Later that evening, after the session, I asked her to bring me my old black notebook, the one I used for taxes and account numbers. It was gone. "Of course it was," Ramona said. "They cleaned out your desk. There's nothing left but a photo of you and Bryce at his graduation. Even the frame was cracked." That's when I said his name, the one I hadn't spoken since the coma. "Henry Carver," I said. Ramona blinked. "Paul's lawyer?" I nodded. "He handled our estate after Paul died. He's sharp, trusted." She found his number and called from the hallway. He came the next morning, a little older, but just as alert. He listened. He read the forged signature. He didn't flinch. "We'll need proof," he said simply. "They've covered their tracks well." Ramona didn't hesitate. "Then we start digging." Ramona returned to my old house with Henry's blessing and a notarized letter granting access. She told me later that the place felt cold, not just from the drafty windows, but from the way it had been emptied of anything that felt like me. She wasn't looking for evidence at first, just something to bring back. A sweater, a book, something that still smelled like my old life. But when she opened the drawer of the nightstand, her fingers brushed against a small square plastic case tucked beneath a stack of unused holiday cards. She brought it to the hospital and placed it gently on my tray table. "You remember this?" she asked. I nodded slowly. It was a motion camera, the kind that blended into furniture. I'd installed it 2 years ago after a few small things in my bedroom went missing. Papers moved, drawers left cracked open. I never mentioned it to Bryce or Kendra. I'd almost forgotten about it myself. Ramona handed the memory card to Henry, who connected it to his laptop. We watched together, huddled around the screen in my hospital room. The timestamp read 2 days after my fall. There they were, Bryce and Kendra, in my bedroom, casually flipping through my personal documents like they were sorting junk mail. Kendra was barefoot, holding a glass of wine. Bryce wore latex gloves. "Power of attorney first," she said, scrolling through a PDF on her phone, "then the account authorizations. After that, we'll get the house title notarized." She laughed as she sat on my bed. "If she wakes up, she won't remember a thing," Kendra said, signing my name with a practiced curl. "She's old and confused. If it goes to court, no one will believe her." Bryce said nothing. He just passed her the next form. Henry paused the video and turned to me. "They forged everything," he said. "This changes everything." I didn't speak. I didn't have to, because now I had proof, and I knew exactly what to do with it. The cafe was quiet. No music, no crowd, just the low hum of conversation and the clink of mugs against ceramic plates. I sat across from Henry in the corner booth, a fresh cup of coffee in front of me, untouched. "That's felony-level forgery," he said quietly. "And that's before we even get into elder abuse or the assault." I sipped my coffee. "How hard will it be to prove intent?" He shook his head. "Not hard anymore. That video is a hammer." He pulled out a yellow legal pad, already scribbled with case numbers, state codes, timelines. "I'll subpoena the bank records and the house sale paperwork. We'll need every transaction they touched. You keep recovering. Let me and Ramona handle the rest." As if on cue, Ramona walked through the cafe door, holding a file folder nearly 2 inches thick. She slid into the booth beside me and dropped it on the table. "Copies of her medical file," she said. "Everything from the ER intake to the neurologist's notes. You're going to want to see what they submitted." Henry opened the folder and flipped through the pages. His eyebrows lifted. "They faked cognitive decline," he muttered. "These entries don't match anything in her real scans." I leaned forward. "They wanted the court to think I was gone. Legally, mentally, financially." Henry looked up. "Then we make sure the court hears the truth." He packed up the files, laptop, and footage. He didn't promise revenge. He promised process. And this time I believed in it, because for the first time since I woke up, the fight felt like mine again. They walked in like they owned the place. Bryce in a tailored navy suit, probably bought with my money, looking calm, calculated. Kendra, in soft beige, her hair pinned back, expression just the right mix of polite grief and practiced concern. They sat at the defendant's table like they were here for a misunderstanding, not a reckoning. They didn't know I was coming. The courtroom buzzed with low chatter, attorneys adjusting files, the clerk sorting papers. Henry stood beside me, behind the side door, hand on my arm as I steadied myself with my cane. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded once. My heart was loud in my ears, but my spine held straight. When the bailiff called the case and the judge entered, the room stilled. The moment the bailiff opened the side door, heads turned. I stepped into the courtroom. First, Bryce saw me. His face drained of color. His lips parted, but no sound came. Kendra turned a beat later. Her hand flew to her mouth. For a second, I thought she might faint. I took my seat beside Henry, eyes forward, not even glancing their way. The judge looked over her glasses. "Miss Vance, welcome." Henry stood. "Your Honor, with your permission, we'd like to start with a short video clip." Permission granted. He clicked play. Kendra's voice filled the courtroom. "If she wakes up, she won't remember a thing." Bryce handing her the paper. Kendra signing my name, their laughter. Then came the signature samples. Mine, hers, side by side. The expert analysis laid it bare. Forgery. Then the financials. Transfers, wire payments, the cabin sale, the bank account freeze. Every piece of the puzzle neatly aligned. I watched them unravel across from me. Kendra's perfect composure cracking. Bryce whispering to their lawyer in panic. I sat still, not out of shock, but because I'd already cried in a hospital bed for what they did. Now it was their turn to feel powerless. The judge's voice was calm, clear, final. This court finds that the defendants knowingly and willfully engaged in acts of financial fraud, forgery, and elder exploitation. Kendra didn't blink. She stared straight ahead, jaw tight, hands folded like a student waiting for a grade she already knew she failed. "Ms. Kendra Vance is hereby sentenced to 3 years in state prison," the judge continued, "with restitution to the victim in the amount of $75,000. The sound of the gavel was sharp. Bryce flinched. The judge turned to him next. As for Mr. Bryce Vance, while the court does not impose criminal sentencing today, it hereby rules that he is permanently disqualified from inheriting any portion of Miss Karen Vance's estate, current or future. He blinked slowly, swallowed. And all assets, accounts, and property fraudulently transferred are to be returned in full, she finished. The room was silent, the air pressed tight. I didn't cry, I didn't smile. I just sat there, hands folded in my lap, watching the machine of justice turn finally on my behalf. As the courtroom emptied, Kendra was led away in cuffs. She kept her head down, but her eyes darted toward me as she passed. I didn't meet them. Bryce stood frozen for a while, then finally turned. He walked toward me, slow and hesitant, like he thought there might be something left between us to salvage. "Mom," he started. I looked at him, not through him, but past him. He wasn't my son in that moment. He was just a man who'd tried to erase me and failed. He waited for something, an acknowledgement, a word, maybe even forgiveness. He got nothing. I stood, turned to Henry, and nodded. "Let's go home." The house is small, one story, no steps, no railings to grip, just wide, even floors and quiet mornings. I chose it on purpose. Golden, Colorado isn't far from where I raised Bryce, but it feels like another world entirely. Here the air doesn't carry memories I didn't ask for. Here no one calls me burden behind my back. I used part of the restitution to make one final decision, one that had nothing to do with courts or revenge. I donated $100,000 to a nonprofit that helps victims of elder abuse. They didn't know what to say when I called. I told them it wasn't a gift, it was a seed. In the backyard, I planted my own seeds. Basil by the kitchen door, tomatoes in raised beds, lavender along the fence, not for anyone else, just for the scent. Some mornings I sit on the patio with a chipped mug of strong coffee and listen to the world wake up. I don't expect company. I don't wait for phone calls. The silence doesn't ache anymore. It fits. Ramona visits when I let her. She brings me new stories and refuses to talk about Bryce unless I ask. I never do. Henry sends the occasional update out of habit. Most go unread. There's a photo of Paul on the mantel. It's the only one I kept from the old house. He's holding Bryce as a toddler, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. I don't hate that photo. I just understand now that love doesn't guarantee loyalty. The rest of the space is empty on purpose. No extra chairs, no guest rooms, no room for people who only show up when there's something to take. I water the garden every evening, watch the sun paint the mountains gold. And when the light fades, I close the door, turn the lock, and feel nothing but stillness. Because after everything they stole, I finally got back the one thing they never meant to give me: peace.